All right, so moving on to the speed round. Definitely something that was pretty messed up happened this week was the New York attack.
Right, let's go into that first, and then we'll continue our last segment, let it bleed over into this one, how I hate the media. Go ahead, let's talk about that.
So, yeah, for people who don't know, because obviously a lot of the news medias were running with the whole shadow gossip against Donald Trump, so a lot of them weren't really reporting this story as much as I think they should have. But in New York City's Times Square, there was a 26-year-old, Richard Rojas, who went down. Basically, he's driving in his car. All of a sudden, he does a massive U-turn at a four-way intersection and just starts driving down the middle of the sidewalk and is just plowing through people. I think there was only one guy that died, though. So I don't know if you actually watched the video or not.
One death and then like 23 injured or something like that.
Yeah.
I have not seen the
exactly.
video. I have seen the still frame images of the aftermath, and I've seen the still frame images of like him getting attacked and him like right before he gets attacked, where like there's that one image where he's like hands up, like out football tackle style. Like that's a weird looking one. So I mean, I read the story, I heard it briefly, but then again, that brings me to like, because of the unsourced information, because of those stories, like what was crazy was the day that happened, I was like, dude, didn't something happen in New York today and nothing is on TV? Like this is all Trump and sources and whatnot.
Well, they pretty quickly came out and says it wasn't terrorist related, so everyone just lost interest. And like whenever I finally watched the video, because I remember they were like, oh, the guy's apparently he's a drug addict. He was a guy who, was caught with D for drinking, driving under the influence and all that. And so at that point, they still didn't really know anything. And then whenever I watched the video of it, I mean, it looks exactly like you think it would. Like if you were playing Grand Theft Auto and then decided to run over a bunch of people, that's what it looked like. And there's one guy who I'm sure that's the one who died, because he gets up to like full speed. And this guy's just by himself. Like the rest of the crowded people was kind of, they were kind of just bouncing off. But this guy was just full force hit at a car probably going near 60 to 70 miles an hour.
Yeah, no.
And I remember watching that. I was like, this guy he may be on drugs, but he is definitely controlled. And according to this article that I'm reading right now, they have him quoted as saying, "I wanted to kill them." And he admitted smoking PCP-laced marijuana before Thursday's
That is exactly what I told you before I knew any of that information. I was like, dude, that picture looks like a dude on PCP.
That motherfucker's on PCP.
That looks like every episode of Cops that I've seen in Oklahoma. Like, literally every single one.
Right. I don't understand why he did it, because as soon as he crashed, like, he kept going and going and going. And then he ended up hitting a divider or something like that. He was trying to run over a guy, and like I remember whenever I was watching the video, I couldn't see the divider. So I don't know if the guy was like standing directly in front of it or what happened, but the guy barely didn't get hit, this last guy, and he ended up hitting some sort of barrier and wrecked his car. And then he jumps out, and they instantly just swarm him. He gets away like three times.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, he fights him off like three times, and then finally a mob of people just descend upon him, and he's done for at that point.
That whole story was nuts, and what was disappointing again was the fact that like really didn't get like we had to dig for that a little bit. It's not like it was on the news networks. They were busy politicizing other stories, and so I mean that was just a crazy blip on the screen this week, and I don't know. They took him. Obviously, he didn't die in this, so like I'm sure that we'll find. Or, I mean, he's already said what he's gonna say, but I'm sure that this guy's trial might be an interesting one. That might be one to pay attention to, because there might be some interesting moments in that. Not trial, but they're gonna ask him if he's guilty, and he's gonna see
yes.
a judge with like bat wings, and who knows what could happen. So,
right. Well, and to me, the thing that also is because they raise a lot of concerns in New York City because this is the new ISIS attack. That's their new favorite thing, is to say they're telling people just get in your car and run people over. And we
lazy.
see that going on in well, you see it mostly in these European zones where there's very heavy gun restriction. So they used to have to do knife attacks, and you slash a couple people, that sucks, but then you end up dying. And so unless you can get someone to make bombs, which is hard, they're telling them just get in your car and start running people over. So they were asking the mayor of New York City and saying, like, do you guys need more precautions? Do you need more barriers so that these things can't happen? Because this guy was just a dude on PCP. The next one could be a terrorist attack, and not particularly hard to do.
That being said, at the end of the day, I don't know that the damage is that much different. So, I don't know that would make it worse. I don't know that it being in the name of Islam is worse than some guy on PCP just mowing down some people. Like,
Right.
So,
well, it isn't. It isn't, because if it's just one guy, then it's done. Right. But if it's just one guy and they catch that one guy, then it's done. No big deal. But if it's in the name of Allah and Islam, then you're going to probably see repeated times
maybe,
of it happening.
So
there's a difference.
Maybe. So, okay. I think that's enough on that one. The other story that happened that didn't really get, I don't know if this happened last weekend or whatnot. When was Erdogan in the president of Egypt? Or
man, I thought it was Tuesday.
Is he a president? Is that his
title? President of Turkey. I think he's
dictator. Anyway, so Erdogan's he's in
Turkish
town,
president.
And I guess some people are protesting his visit and what was it, in front of the Turkish embassy or whatnot.
Wherever. I don't know the exact location where it was. So, but basically, big line of protesters.
So Erdogan is Trump's guest. He's coming to the White House, and in front of the Turkish embassy, protesters like block the sidewalk or whatever. And you can watch the video for yourself. I'll put it in the comments. It's debatable whether President Erdogan ordered it or if it just happened. Either way,
looks like
his guys, his bodyguards, proceed to whoop ass on everybody on the sidewalk, like kicking people in the face and like,
they do, man. They
so
kick
I don't
some
know.
ass.
I don't necessarily know where that order was given, and then the DC police proceeded to arrest the protesters. So I'd like to know more of that story. Obviously, I don't know if the protesters were doing something that they shouldn't have been doing, or if they were simply just protesting, and President Erdogan didn't like their message and
get these dudes out of here.
Down. But what I'm going to say is, you don't come to my house and start whooping up on my family. So, I don't think that's cool. And now, if the protesters were doing something wrong, the DC police should have been involved before it escalated to that point. They should,
right, and it's their job to de-escalate it.
I don't
at
think
that point.
After
a
foreign dignitary starts whooping ass on American citizens, the DC police now you have to explain to me why you arrested the Americans. That
Right. Well, I'd be interested to see if diplomatic immunity is if that's valid for beating the shit out of our citizens.
I'm sure.
It's like, hey, they're diplomats. I mean, and they're not. They're bodyguards.
Right.
So
no,
they're not diplomats, and I wouldn't imagine that they would have diplomatic immunity. But regardless, it looks like the dude that you can see on video just kicking the shit out of some dude with a bullhorn's face. It looks like he walks up to Erdogan's limo. He talks to someone. Again, this is a limo containing Erdogan. And then he just proceeds to go over and start whipping ass. So it looks as if he was told to do that, or that there was something It could be something as simple as, shut it down, something like that, and then he interpreted it as bass.
Right.
Regardless, I was surprised at how many news. Again, this is my issue with the unsubstantiated news claims, where it's like, we have documented evidence here of Erdogan's bodyguards beating our citizens. Yes, but did you know that this memo might actually exist? I don't care. Like, show me the real news of the real thing that we should be talking about.
It is crazy. You would think, too, that just based on the details of the story, whether or not, like, I mean, even with just those limited details of the story, you would think more people would be, A, would want to know about it, and B, would be outraged about it a little bit. Like, I'm not,
Right. And I think that does show where people are, it's another example of why people don't trust the mainstream media, and why they say that they are treating Trump unfairly, and that they're not reporting the real news, and that they're doing Trump. You can agree with that or disagree with that, but I'm saying this leads into that narrative that some people have, that the mainstream media is just trying to cover it, maybe not cover everything up, but put a microscope onto anything involving Trump, and then everything else just kind of doesn't matter because they want to go
and I
after
don't
Trump.
think it's unfair to say that
they should probably have covered
They should absolutely have covered it.
I didn't see it. I don't know. Maybe they did on late night for 20 minutes. I don't know.
I didn't see it either. I saw it in a blip as I was flipping through articles online somewhere, and was like, wait, what? And so then I went and found the video. But yeah, this was another story that was not covered, that is unfortunate, just based on, granted, again, like I've stated many times throughout the episode, it's not that I don't think that there couldn't be something there with Donald Trump, and I do want to know those stories, but when there's other news, and this seems like
at
it
least
should
report that news as well.
This seems like one that most people would want to talk about and debate anyway. I mean, I'm sure that they, this is an interesting conversation to have. At what point does a foreign diplomat cross the line when he comes to your country and beats the shit out of you? Like, where's the line there?
Right.
I'd like to know.
We get it. Protesters can be very annoying, but you probably shouldn't kick them in the face until they can't move. Probably not the best message.
So anyway,
yeah, and also just for anyone listening, I originally heard it from Philip DeFranco. He covers it very well. So if you wanted to get even more information on that topic, I would suggest looking up Philip DeFranco on YouTube and checking out his coverage of it, because it's very good. And that was the first place where I heard about the secondary video where it showed the bodyguard talking to Erdogan's.
We'll link to that.
So he does a very good job
to that
as well.
too in the comments. And then I guess the last one, which of course this was a story that was reported this week, and this is next week we will go in to Saudi Arabia and Trump's foreign visit and all this stuff, his foreign trip.
All three stops that he's going to. We're going to cover
we'll
the
do
whole
that
trip.
next week because it just happened in the last 18 hours. But what we will take from at least him landing in the Middle East is just a little bit of a story that is just a fun one. Don't take this seriously. Mitch and I don't give a shit about this topic. But I think there's there's at least something to comment on here. So, breaking news. Sources close to everyone ever say that Melania Trump, when she gets off the plane in Saudi Arabia, isn't wearing a headscarf. Oh no!
Oh my god!
Neither did neither did Michelle Obama.
Oh my god!
Which no other story is really adding the Michelle Obama one. I just want to point out that neither did Michelle Obama.
Man. I think both. I don't get the hate that Michelle Obama got, and I don't get the hate that Melania Trump gets. Like both sides are just so nasty to each other. Like, Republicans were nasty to Michelle Obama for 8 years, and some of the shit that I see people saying about Melania Trump is disgusting. I'm just like, who's proud of themselves after all of this?
I agree with you.
Anyway, that's a little side note.
I've always felt that way too. Leave the unless the families are involved, which, I mean, you could argue that, well...
Right. Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner,
right.
Yeah, they're involved. Like, if they do something you don't like, by all means. But Melania Trump's just raising Byron. Like,
right.
you
leave the Obama daughters alone. You leave, you do. So, anyway, here's my opinion on the scarf issue and our leaders visiting other countries. I don't think that they should have to wear that. I don't have a problem with that. That's not, they're Christians and they live in the West, and that is not our culture. I totally agree. I have no problem with that at all. Personally, my take is, because we talked about this last night on the phone, and what I had said to you was, if I was president and Stacey was the first lady, the way that I would do it is I would ask Stacey to wear it as a sign of respect to the religion of Islam. But as far as when we got off that plane, she would not walk 10 paces behind me. Because in America, women are equal, so she's going to stand shoulder to shoulder with me. And
patriarchy!
Right. The only thing that I think is interesting about this story at all, and the only reason that I wanted to talk about it for the 30 seconds that I'm going to give it, is because I think it's an interesting concept that we have the conversation about it at all. What is appropriate for our leader to do when they get to a country that, this is the belief system. Right. And I don't think that they should feel obligated to do anything that they wouldn't do, because you shouldn't. You should be yourself. I'm just telling you the way that I would do it, because I can show a sign of respect for the religion. But as far as your societal norm of men being more valued than women, I'm not going to play that game as a Westerner.
Right. I don't think you should have.
I don't think you should have to do any of it either. That's how I would do it.
I also don't because we saw the Obamas do that, where they were just basically everyone in the Middle East just kind of didn't take the Obama administration seriously, and they would do all of these pains to go over the top and accommodate their religions and do these signs of respect and bow as low as they could, to the Saudi princes and everything else. And I get it, but you don't have to do it. We're America. We can do. I'm not gonna say we can do what we want, but if we come in there, you don't have to wear a headscarf, because that's not our culture. You don't have to walk 10 feet behind, because that's not our culture. It's two cultures coming together to do it. And we've seen that as well in Europe, where that was one thing, and I covered this briefly whenever I was doing my coverage of Marine Le Pen, where she was basically she was meeting with, they might have been Turkish. I can't remember who she was meeting with, but basically they were like, if you want to talk to us, you're going to get a burqa on, and you're doing wear the hijab at least, or a full burqa, or we're not going to talk with you. And she showed up to the meeting, and they were like, we're serious. You're putting this on, or you're not talking to us. And she was like, you can go fuck yourself.
See,
I'm not
and
doing
to
it.
me,
and I was like, that's awesome.
I don't have a problem with that. And I would think, from a negotiating standpoint, that if your stipulation is that I have to wear something to have a conversation about policy with you, and I tell you no, because that's not my culture, then you're the one removing yourself from the table. I'm willing to have the conversation. We can talk taxes all day. We can talk trade all day. But if that's the stipulation, then you're removing yourself from the table. That's kind of how I look at that.
Right. And now she took it a little bit further, because I agreed with her on that part of it. And then she was saying that she would outlaw the burqa because it was a sign of oppression to women. And I was like, well, wait a second. If you say they can't wear it, then you're basically saying what women can wear and can't wear, which is exactly what you're saying you're against.
If you ask a Muslim woman what the burqa is about,
it's 50-50. Half of them hate it, and
right?
half of them don't hate it. And
but
it depends on
right.
what
so
it
then
is.
You can't outlaw it for that reason, because,
in my opinion, no, you can't. I mean, obviously they can do whatever the fuck they want. If they want to outlaw it,
right? But that would be
it.
religious oppression.
But, yeah, I mean, you could make that argument very strongly. But to me, like, and you see it on both sides where they show videos of women who are told you don't have to wear the burqa, and they're taking it off and they're throwing it on the ground and they're burning it and they're liberated. Right. And then you see other videos that people show where they're like, we love
it's about
it,
inner beauty
and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah, and that's another one of those real controversial statements Milo Yiannopoulos has made before, where a Muslim woman stands up at one of his rallies, and she's going off on him for whatever it is, and he says, "You're living in the United States and you're wearing a burqa. What's wrong with you?" And then everyone cheers, and she gets all pissed off and storms out. And yeah, like, it's a controversial thing. It goes both ways. I think he's wrong for telling people, you know. I guess he wasn't telling it. He was just saying, you know, what's wrong with you. He did it in a derogatory way. Like, he was saying, like, you don't have to wear this, so what's wrong with you? Why would you? And maybe she wants to.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? So, but, I mean.
Yeah, but maybe, I don't know. It's one of those little touchy things, because anytime you get with religion and things that are, you know, like, I don't know the protocol for yarmulkes. Do you have to wear a yarmulke if you're Jewish?
Know. What I will say is the only thing that makes this story a bit interesting at all is that when Michelle Obama didn't wear the headscarf, Donald Trump tweeted, "Who would have thought?" and said that while everybody's applauding her for not wearing it, they were insulted. We have enough enemies. Like, of course, Donald Trump from the past would bite Donald Trump from the present in the ass.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, because I don't remember anyone else besides him going too deep into Michelle Obama not wearing it. I know they used to always get on her for showing her arms and being like, "Oh my God, she's showing her arms to these Muslim leaders." And it's like, who gives a shit? She's wearing like, she's not topless. She's just wearing.
She's also
shirt. You know, maybe she's showing off the gun.
She's also not a Muslim, so she doesn't have to wear like religiously appropriate attire.
Well, how does that work though? Because Obama's a Muslim. He prays to Allah. Right. So I don't. No, I don't believe that. By the way, I'm making a joke.
No.
So.
But there are.
I don't think he's a golden
but there are
Muslim.
people that do believe that, and those people live in Oklahoma. So
Buzzing.
So anyway, and the last little bit that I'll put onto the show, and we won't even go into it. We'll just acknowledge the fact that Chris Cornell died this week too, which was really unfortunate. And so obviously, you know,
suicide. They said.
Yeah, I saw that, which is really sad. So obviously, you know, your thoughts. I know they were in the middle of a tour. They actually canceled their show here that was supposed to be yesterday. So that's crazy. So obviously, you know, feel for the family.
I briefly got to meet him once when I was working at Riverport. And I don't remember anything about it.
So it must have been a good time.
I know that he was there, and I know that. Yeah, it was a great time. No, but, yeah, he was playing. Obviously, he was playing with Audioslave. This was back in 2007 or 8, somewhere around there. And I remember seeing him backstage because I worked backstage. And
that's a good reason to meet him there.
That's that whole story.
Anyway, so obviously, you know, we feel for his family and the band and all that stuff. So anyway, I think that's a good place to leave it for the week. So remember to like and subscribe for all our future content. The links to the topics discussed will be located, of course, in the comment section.
Check us out on YouTube, and if you really want to stay informed, go ahead and like our page on Facebook. That's basically where we're kind of in control of everything. So whenever we upload things to iTunes and to Google Play, we'll advertise it on Facebook. When we upload things to YouTube, we're going to advertise it on Facebook. So that's really the best way to get plugged into everything we're doing.
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter as well, but the Facebook page is definitely the more informative of the two. So I think that about does it. Thanks again for listening, and as always, we'll leave you now with the alternative fact of the week.